Peugeot has made some truly excellent cars over its history, with the likes of the 205 GTI and the 106 GTI cementing it in the hearts and minds of many petrol heads. Thing is, they don't always get it right. And this. Suffice to say, Peugeot is trying to return to its glory days with trendier, more sporty offerings like this, 208 GTI. Fans of Peugeot will instantly recognise the design, which really hasn't changed that much since the 206. The 208 GTI is a good-looking machine, but then it should be when you consider France is home to one of the fashion capitals of the world. Now I know what you're thinking, but this particular 208 GTI hasn't been run over by a giant red tyre. It is in fact called Coupe Franche, if you'll pardon mon français. Two-tone paint job that will set you back £945. Just gonna let that sink in for a bit. Coupe Franche literally translates as clean cut, referring to the line where the matte black colour ends and the shiny red begins. And I would say that's the perfect way to describe the effect it has on people. Some will love its boy racer styling and aggressive Peugeot Sport elements, while others will feel like they're just a bit too old to be in it. This particular car is the GTI by Peugeot Sport, which means it has special exterior badges, a 10mm lower ride height, red brake calipers, double chrome exhaust pipe, and matte black door mirrors and 18-inch alloy wheels for that sportier look. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of attention with a paint job that basically says you couldn't decide between two colours, and not always of the positive variety. But we have to hand it to Peugeot, we really like this bold approach to the styling. You might even have the luggage space for adults, providing of course they pack lightly, as it has 285 litres of boot space, expandable to 1076 with the rear seats down. The inside of the car is a hell of a lot more subtle than the outside, but it's still got sporty elements here and there, such as a navigation system, red lights around the dials, and this, the world's smallest steering wheel. Now I like a sporty steering wheel as much as the next man, but there's just one tiny problem with this particular example. And that's, depending on the positioning, you can't actually see the rev meter or the speedometer, so you have no idea how fast you're going. Finally, the seats are really well designed, they look the part, and they have bolsters to keep you securely in place. In fact, from a distance, you might even think they look comfortable. That is, until you drive the thing. Driving the 208 GTI on anything other than a smooth road is a complete pain in the backside, literally. The GTI gets specific suspension and shock absorbers, although by specific I think Peugeot actually means a complete lack of. To say this car is harsh is a massive understatement. It's probably the harshest car I've driven all year. This makes it a love or hate experience, because on a smooth, corner-infested road, it slices around the corners with ease. Its small size and low curb weight makes it plucky and eager to please. You just chuck it into a corner and it stays composed and planted. But if the road has bumps, and there are many in the UK, the ride can feel harsh and jittery. You can really feel every imperfection throughout the car, and on longer journeys this can prove extremely tedious. Power comes from a 208 horsepower 1.6 THP turbo petrol, which you can find in the RCZR. As you can imagine, in a car that weighs this little, it's more than sprightly. 0 to 60 takes 6.5 seconds, and it will do 1,000 meters in 26.5 seconds, if you want to be all metric about it. It's fairly eager to accelerate from low revs, so you can get away from the lights quickly. But if you want to wring out every last bit of potential, you'll need to rev it hard. In either case, it's definitely not a ferocious animal, whereas the RCZR and its more powerful engine is a snarling lion. This is a bit more of an angry Doberman. Purists will be pleased to know that the 208 GTI comes with a 6-speed manual only, so there's no boring automatic here. This makes it a hell of a lot more involving as you throw it through the gears. With that said, there is a really long throw between them, so it's not as sharp as it could be. Peugeot claims it will do 52.3 miles per gallon while spewing out only 125 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning it's not only cheap to tax, it's cheap to run. It's Steering feedback from the tiny wheel is a little bit vague, so although it's razor sharp, I just wish there was that tiny bit more feeling, as it would inspire more confidence. While we're on the subject, it does make the car feel that little bit more sporty, but if you're doing anything like parking or manoeuvres around town, it can be a bit of a workout having to spin the wheel all the time. The plus of the 2.8 GTI is the Torsen differential, which controls the power sent to the front wheels. It's the same one you find in the RCZR, and it really does its bit in keeping the car from feeling like a handful. Even so, push the Doberman hard and it really can excite. Certainly not as much as the old 205 GTI, but it is damn good fun by modern hot hatch standards. It might have its pros and its cons, but the 2.8 GTI is a fun little car. However, it's not without its flaws. Half of me loves the fact this is a really strong effort to return Peugeot to former glory, but the other half of me finds the rock-hard suspension too unforgiving and a few of the design quirks somewhat infuriating. I never thought I'd say this, but it's almost too sporty for its own good, especially when the level of outright performance isn't always accessible enough to overcome the negatives. Somehow then, Peugeot has designed the car as divisive as its paint job. How much you like it depends solely on how much you care about comfort and how willing you are to forgive its shortcomings. And in that category you have cars like the VW Golf R, the Seat Leon Cupra and the Ford Focus ST. Can the little Frenchie really compete? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out.